What's up, guys? We're back with another educational video, and this week we are talking about oatmeal and cereal making you infertile. But first, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment for the algorithm. All right, so this comes about because a study that got a lot of press got published where they looked at the levels of a chemical called chloroquat in people's urine and found that over 80% of people had detectable levels of chloroquat in their urine, and this chemical has been linked to infertility. This study was very short in duration and very small in sample size, but it got a lot of play in the press. What is one thing everyone says to me when I bring up a study they don't like? Well, who funded it? Did you check the funding source? Follow the money. Well, guys, looks like it's your turn this time, because this study was funded by the EWG, which is a lobbyist group for organic foods. Yes, organic foods have lobbyists. I'm sure that everyone is going to be just as appalled by the funding source of this study as all the other studies, right? Oh, wait, they've been completely fucking silent on this because it fits their bias, and so they don't bring up the funding source. Now, if my only criticism of a study was the funding source, that is not a valid criticism. And in fact, if your only criticism of a study is the funding source, it says more about your bias than the researchers. So we look at the actual paper itself. What did they actually find? Yes, they found detectable levels, and they used very clever verbiage. They said above the level that is determined to be safe by the EWG, which they determined to be 30 parts per billion, and they found 291 parts per billion. What is the actual level that the EPA says is safe? 10 parts per million. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a big difference between a million and a billion. They found, on average, 291 parts per billion in this. What does that equate to in terms of parts per million? It equates to 0.291 parts per million. How far away from that is what would be the limit of what the EPA says is safe? It is a 34th of what the EPA deems is safe, i.e., you would have to eat a load more of it in order to even get close to approaching the level that is deemed as dangerous. I wonder why they didn't talk about that. Oh, I wonder if it could be that there's some sort of agenda pushing. If we can scare people about eating non-organic oats and non-organic cereal, we can sell more organic cereal and more organic oats. Who'd have thunk? If non-organic oats were so bad for you, if non-organic grains were so bad for you, what would we expect to see in the human randomized control trials? Well, we would expect to see biomarkers of health get worse. And what do we see when people eat more oats and whole grains? There are biomarkers of health like insulin sensitivity, blood lipids, risk of cardiovascular disease. They go down. And this is with non-organic oatmeal and grains. Therefore, either one of two things has to be true. Oh, and by the way, there's no evidence that the organic versions of those have better improvements than the non-organic versions of those. Either the levels of these toxic chemicals that everyone freaks out about are so low that they don't actually have any kind of impact. Remember that there is cyanide in apples, okay? Nobody's gonna die from eating apples. Or these foods are so healthy for you that it just completely washes out any negative effects of these toxins. I don't think number two is true. I think number one is true. The dosage makes the poison, which is the first thing you learn if you ever take a basic toxicology class. Sadly, your favorite fitness influencers have never taken toxicology class, have probably never read a full text, and also they probably never actually even went to school for this stuff. So why would they know? They wouldn't. They're just used to fear-mongering, scare tactics, and cherry picking. So that's all I got to say about that. I am not saying that these are things we should not look at. We should absolutely look at these things and we should have concerns about them. But again, if you are going to call out research studies for low sample size, short duration, and funding source, then you need to be logically consistent. This is like the carnivore crazies saying things like epidemiology is garbage. But as soon as there is a self-reported internet survey, aka really poorly done epidemiology, they blast it up as, this is the greatest thing in history. Epidemiology garbage, but not when it's epidemiology that fits your bias. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you next week.